This week in a conversation, I have the honor to receive author Talia Zales. She's joining me from San Diego, California. We're going to be talking about her brand new novel. It's a children's book, by the way, titled A Phone for Christmas. Interesting. But before we get to see my interesting conversation with author Talia Zales, I just want to remind you again to continue to support Bittersweet Memories of Last Spring. The book can be found anywhere or everywhere they sell books. So if you've already purchased your copy, you can always tell your friends and the other people also to get a copy themselves. And that would be the best way to support my literary journey, Bittersweet Memories of Last Spring. My new novel. Also, I just want to remind everyone to continue to lend your support behind our great literary show, which is The Conversation. The best way to support is to subscribe to it. If you've already done so, you can always tell your friends or fans to do the same. Because more people who subscribe to The Conversation, the more powerful we become. So please do so. And of course, if you think after you watch this video, me and Talia's conversation, if you like the video, please let me know at the bottom of the video in the comment box. All right. And if you subscribe, don't forget to click the notification bell so that way every time a video is posted, it's going to you as soon as possible in your portable. So let's get started. Ardain Isma, and I'm here this evening with a very important author. Okay, so we're going to talk about her new novel, A Phone for Christmas. It's a children's book. It's been some time since I interview an author who's written children's books. And it's a pleasure for me to have another conversation about the children's literature with compelling author, Talia Zales. Talia, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Okay, so Talia, would you please tell the viewers of CSMS Magazine who is Talia Zales?
Well, I'm Talia Zales. I'm a mom of 3. I am a wife. I'm a full-time worker, and I write when I have some spare time.
All right, so that's exactly what we do as writers, right? Unless we can get, we could be lucky to be signed by one of the big 3s, like the HarperCollins of the world. But as long as we remain indie writers, this is exactly how it's going to be.
Right.
So, Talia, interesting story. Before we get to the story itself, what really made you decide to write a children's book?
It's a really good question. I actually never really thought that I'd be writing children's books, so I surprised myself a little bit. This story came to me as a way of coping with a loss. I lost my grandfather last year to cancer, and I couldn't sleep. And I started writing this story about a character who called their grandparent on the phone every day. And it was very much based on my daughter's relationship with my grandpa. And they talked to each other every day on the phone. And it was sort of my way of coping with the loss, but also keeping him alive in some way. And this story gradually turned into A Phone for Christmas, the picture book that is coming out this winter.
Okay, so you say that in the sense that it was just like, it begins like a diary or something, which in turn turns into a full manuscript?
So for me, it started out as something that I wrote to cope, but it gradually became a picture book. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would be thinking in rhymes, very Dr. Seuss, and I just couldn't get them out of my head. And it got to a point where I would sit up because writing them down was so much quicker, and then I could just go to sleep after. So there were 3 nights in particular over the course of 3 months that I woke up and I was just like, all right, I've had it. I got to write it down. So I wrote them down and I put them together and synced up with an illustrator, and that's what we came up with.
Interesting. Okay, so let's dive into it now. I have a quote in here. It says that A Phone for Christmas is a captivating tale about the importance of family togetherness. It is also about preteen Lois, who wants from Santa a phone for Christmas. Interesting story, by the way. And it says, so Santa replies by sending him an old red Rotary phone,
Right.
while disabling everyone's cell phones, okay, for an entire year. What a twist. Could you please tell us how the story develops from here?
Well, I can't tell you too much, but I can tell you
No,
some.
you're not going to tell the plot now. I'm never going.
Okay. So the story is not anti-phone per se, it's pro-family.
Okay.
And basically urges us to look at how much time we're spending on our cell phones versus how much time we're spending being actively present with the people who are very important to us,
Right.
mostly our family and our friends.
Right.
So in this story, Santa and his elves are fed up and they send everybody a red rotary and urge everyone to spend time with their families. And they do this by disabling everybody's phones, and they give a red rotary so people can contact each other. And also they give a scroll, which this scroll has a list of family and friend activities for everyone to do over the course of the year in order to get their phones back.
You know what? Rotary phones, I remember them very well. So, we are in the era of advanced technology, this is something that you see right now, you find in the museum, right away. So, how did you come up with a rotary phone from Santa?
That's a really
because
good.
you wanted to put some sort of a taste of how would I say that, of joy or something, or you're entertaining the reader or something in a sense?
Well, all of those things, but it's also a personal piece.
Really?
I do like antiques, but also because there was a time where my phone notifications were just going off 100% of the day,
Okay.
and getting very overwhelmed. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to buy a home phone, and it's going to be a really old phone, and it's going to hook up to the wall, and that's going to be it. And I'm going to shut off my phone when I get home. And if anybody needs to reach me urgently, they'll have that number. And so that's where the idea came from.
Let me ask you something. Okay. There's something that really catches my attention in the story. Is that when you say that after your daughters were born and you had to go back to work, and because of that, okay, so one of the daughters stayed with grandparents, and the other one would stay with with your parents actually, and the other one with the grandparents. Why was that? Why you felt you had to really split the two children? Was there any specific circumstance why you had to do that?
That's a really good question. And the answer is actually pretty simple. So we are a Hispanic family. We're very close. And we are, at this point in our lives, living in the same neighborhood. So
okay.
My parents lived here. I lived in the middle here, and my grandparents lived here, about 10 houses in between. on both sides. And so it was easier for them to take care of one kid rather than taking care of both. I don't know if you've taken care of two very small children at one time, but they're going in different directions and they're running very fast. And it's just easier to watch them one at a time. So that's really why we decided to do it.
And if I may ask, because I'm from an immigrant family too. So there's another element it would probably eliminate. You know, grandparents or great grandparents, sometimes they fight to get a hold of the grandchildren. So that way, in doing so, you have managed to satisfy both of them.
That's true.
Because you say that your grandpa actually you lost recently, and it must have been very hard on your daughter too, right?
Yeah, really, really tough. She's actually still really dealing with that. It's been a year as of about a week and a half ago, and she's still very much coping with that because he was very much her person. They spoke every day. They were, video chatting, phone calling. Anytime she got like a test or something, some kind of grade at school or something exciting happened to her, he was the first person she called. So now she does very much struggle with that because she doesn't have that person to call right away when something very big happens.
Right.
So yeah, we're all still processing that. You never really get over losing the most important person to you. So,
yeah. So Talia, listen, let me ask you a question here now, because I know it's a question that I always ask when I have a friend in a conversation. I know when you a writer, you write with passion. And in your case, again, the passion while you're telling me now your story, I can see it in your eyes. Now, Talia, I know this isn't the only story that you will write, that you will share with the world. But I know as a genre in literature, children's books is very important. As a matter of fact, statistically, it says that and most books retailers or platforms where they sell books, children books tend to fare far more than some of the most compelling novels out there. So there's really a specific bond between people who truly believe in raising children and who are educated with stories related to your story, for example. So is that what made you become so passionate about writing children's stories, children's books?
I think that might be a piece of it. I think that the other piece is largely that I have children and that I have a background working with children. I was a teacher, so I love reading. I love books. I think that picture books are actually underrated. I think that they should be rated highly, highly, and higher than they are currently. But I enjoy them, and I enjoy reading them with my daughters, and I just think they're beautiful. So I wanted to have a piece of that, I guess.
So having said that, do you plan on branding your name as a children author, or do you plan on transitioning to other genres in literature?
So, bit of both. I do plan to continue writing children's books, but I do also plan on writing contemporary fiction as well. Off the record. Well, I guess it's on the record now. I am working.
It's on the record now, huh? Okay.
I'm only working on a novel now. So, okay. And another children's book I'm working on now. Okay. So, while I am currently branding my name, and I have a website and everything, and all the social medias, I won't purely be a children's book author. I will be an author of many hats.
So can you share that with me? You're not showing it with the audience now. Is this contemporary novel that you're currently working on? Is it historical or fantasy or
It's a bit of
even fiction? So,
crime, mystery, bit of romance.
ah, so it's a little bit of like it's two. Uh,
It's got some psychological elements as well.
okay,
So you just be on the lookout for that.
okay. I'm satisfied with that. Okay, so now listen. Since we're on the children book conversation, how difficult you think it might be? Oh, it is. How difficult is it to write children books? Especially you use illustrations to tell your story. So how difficult you think to
So
achieve?
I think it's actually more difficult than a lot of people give children's book authors credit for. With children's book, particularly picture book, you not only have to tell the story through the words, but you also have to show the story through illustrations. And
Mm-hmm.
as a result, you can either choose to illustrate it yourself if you're gifted artistically in that way, or you have to work with an illustrator and you have to find that illustrator, work out, contract, pay, whatever, and you have to work with the illustrator. And if you don't work well with that person, then things happen or will happen or could happen. So you have to make sure that not only is the illustrator's work, professional, but that you also have a good rapport. And that is a personal piece that a lot of people don't think about. The other piece is obviously the writing piece. For children's books specifically, it has to be well written, not just because people won't read it if it's well written, but because children are impressionable, and when they see things written in a book, they are assuming it's correct and that that's the way to write. And so if you don't write it well, then they could be thinking, well, that's correct. And I saw it in a book and I'm going to put it in my own writing. And, they could be writing something incorrectly, if that makes sense. So you have to make sure that it's well written. You have to get it edited, all this other things.
Exactly.
There's a lot of steps, so many
I
steps.
mean, it's not only children who go and read it, teachers
That's
also,
so
parents,
parents,
everybody's going
parents.
to do that. Now, another question I want to ask you. I know writing is an art of its own, and a lot of people don't understand that. Once they see a book, they only see the finished product,
Right,
but they don't know that it was a project
right.
that ultimately conceived this finished product. So I know most writers, um, what I call perfectionist, because it's never really good enough until you say, oh, this is it, right? My question, Talia, when was that moment, the moment you say, you know what, I'm going to call it? When was that?
See, couple days ago, maybe.
This is it.
been I've been changing things, little things, tweaking things. I even called the printer up about a week
Really?
ago. I
Okay.
did. And I called the printer up and I said, listen, I found this comma, and the comma was actually supposed to go before this word, not after this word. So if we could move this comma, I'd be so happy. And she was like, whew, we were like, this close to like printing it, are you sure that's it? And I was like, it's just this one little comma, if we could just move it. And she said, yep, okay, we're gonna figure it out, we're gonna move it. And I was like, oh, thank God. And that is the last, that's it, but that's the last thing. If there's anything else wrong with it, I apologize to everybody, but that last comma, I promised her it was the last thing.
I like that. I like the way you say it. And I know you're a mom, and every time I have someone in a conversation, sometimes we switch a bit from talking about literature and we move to something cozier. Okay, Talia, and I know you're Hispanic, at least you have a Hispanic background. So if I were to ask you, Talia, what is your favorite cuisine?
Ooh. Favorites are absolutes. I don't know. At least absolutes. I don't really have a favorite per se. I do have things that I prefer to make at certain times of year. Certain times of the year. This is the holidays are coming up, so I'm gonna go with some stuff. I'm Puerto Rican, so I like to make a dish called arroz con gandules, which is like rice with pigeon peas. It's this very fragrant yellow rice with like a meat. Like I put bacon in mine and sofrito. Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of other things. And I like to make a holiday drink, Puerto Rican holiday drink called coquito, which is like a coconut drink.
Coconut.
Very good. It's like the Puerto Rican version of eggnog or
Oh, okay.
had
Very
Mexican.
thick. Very okay.
It's so good. And you can drink that unspiked or spiked, depending on how you take it.
Okay.
So it's very good. Coconut and cinnamon, and I put a couple of other spices in there. It's very nice, very fragrant.
It sounds like the Haitian version of crémasse, which is a
Ooh.
mixture of coconut, also coconut milk, and
Okay, it's pretty similar.
Mhm. So yeah, now, but what about, do you cook for the kids?
So I cook for the kids. Absolutely, absolutely. On months that I'm working like especially hard, my husband will tag in, but I do cook, if not every day, almost every day. I think we maybe order in once a week, sort of like a yay, we survived the week kind of thing. But yes, I do cook for the kids and husband and myself.
And as it from a school teacher, so I think these kids are very lucky to have mom as teacher. So do you read to them at night?
Absolutely. I think that they feel lucky sometimes, but I think that sometimes they feel a little bit unlucky because they can't get away with things. I am very active with their school also, and I communicate with their teachers regularly. So sometimes they kind of kick themselves that I was a teacher because there's no fooling me. I read with them pretty often. We have just started the Long Live the Pumpkin Queen, that it's supposed to be the sequel to A Nightmare Before Christmas, and we just picked up the illustrated version of the Hocus Pocus. So reading through that too, and a couple of other things.
Okay. So I know that most authors that I have in a conversation, I know they have spouse, and so I always have to ask this question: how supportive your husband has been in the writing journey?
With the writing journey, pretty supportive. He is always my first reader, so
That's interesting.
that's good.
Lucky too, in a sense, you know.
I think so. I am constantly bouncing ideas off of him, just like, hey, I had this idea. What do you think? And he'll either say, yeah, that sounds really good, or he'll say, well, that sounds good, but what if? And then he'll throw out a few ideas also. And this is good because he's a reader. So it's really important to me that the reader is taken care of. And so because he is a reader, he's not a writer, he's a reader. Because he's a reader, when I bounce ideas off of him, I'm getting
I mean,
my
from the
husband's
reader's perspective, that's what you get that from him.
perspective. Yes.
From the reader's perspective. Now, let me ask you something also, because I know every writer, Talia, has a preferred author. So if I were to ask you this question, who you would consider as your preferred? It doesn't have to be Puerto Rican or the Haitians, or who you would consider as your best out there. One.
Ooh, wow. That's another absolute. I don't know. I really struggle to pick one. So
everybody says that, you know.
Ooh, I mean, like I have a favorite book, and then I could say that I have an author that I highly respect, and I highly respect his work. So, I mean, I could give you both or one or the other. Which would you like?
Okay, you can give me both, but between the two, you will tell me which one you think is the best. Still.
I don't know. It might be a problem. So for my favorite book, it's a book called Dragonfly, and it's written by Frederick S. Durbin. And that is my favorite book. I started reading it when I was 10, and I read it every year at least once, particularly around October. So I'm also reading it now.
Why is that? You read it particularly around October. Why?
It starts in October. It is very much a high type book. I enjoy it very much.
Okay.
And in terms of author whose work I respect and admire, I'm going to go with Stephen King. Can't go wrong there. I also started reading Stephen King when I was about 10, so about the same time. And I've read not as many as maybe most King fans have read, but I've read quite a few of them. And the favorite I would probably say is The Langoliers, and it's a short story. But it was my first by him, and I just love that one. I've read it many times.
And you know what? Let's switch to music for a second. Sonny, young people like you have to have some affinity with music. When I was a kid, I used to listen to this Puerto Rican singer, Danny Rivera. He had a song that was very popular in Haiti when I was a kid. Para decir adiós, vida mía, that song. Very popular song, but it's been years since I listened to it. Since I heard of him. So because me personally, I love salsa. Besides my Haitian music, I love salsa. I love merengue y vallenatos. So, which music genre that you really, really fall in love with, Italia?
Gosh. Okay. Are you wanting like Hispanic type music, or are you wanting like?
It could be Hispanic, could be, English, or,
It's really tough. I really like rock, metal, alternative.
Really?
It really depends on what mood I'm in. I like trance music, EDM. I do listen to Latin music, particularly cooking, cleaning the house. It just really depends. And also, my daughters play music, so I love listening to them play music.
Was that what does it have some sort of a cultural connotation? You said when you cooking in the house, you love to listen to Hispanic music. What is that? Is that something that you have inherit from your parents?
Definitely. Yeah. I don't know. I think that you could probably look online, and I think that a lot of people are like that as well. Cooking and cleaning. I like to listen to that.
Okay. Now, as our conversation is coming to a close, it's so interesting. Yeah, I feel like we could talk forever on this Sunday night. But every good thing has to come to an end, Talia. My question to you,
Okay.
not everyone can write children's book, but I know millions of folks out there would love to conceive one someday. So what lesson would you give to someone who would be interested in writing a children's book?
Read children's books, because in order to write well, you have to read well. So I would say read children's books first, or before, during, after the writing process. See what out there is popular, and write not just the book you want, but the book you have needed at some point.
Beautiful. Yeah, I agree. So, on that wonderful note, I'm just going to say it's been more than a pleasure to have the privilege to receive in a conversation impeccable author, Talia Zales.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay.